All right, there we go. Go ahead, Mom.
Hi, I'm Angie Ridgway, and this is my co-presenter, Nate. And we are here to share Don't Ditch That Tech, 20 pop-up ways to use technology for differentiation.
Yes.
And Nate and I are both keeping our fingers crossed because I think both of our dogs wanted to be in here today.
Yeah, mine's somewhere around. I think she's probably off chewing something, but you'll probably see a Dalmatian at some point walk through, or my other dog. So
Everybody knows those days when your dog just wants to hang close.
yes.
So thank you for joining us today. We'd love to see your faces if you're willing and to have you introduce yourselves, but certainly definitely introduce yourselves. That's helpful to us to give us context and to allow us to kind of customize some of the suggestions we have or ideas we have for your particular needs. So thank you, Corey. We see you joining us. Looks like you're on your sun porch.
And then if people want to, I think probably the fastest way that we can do it is have them go ahead and type your name in the chat and just maybe like what your role in teaching or education is. And that would be, and also your location, where you're from, because we had somebody this morning from Ecuador in here. And I was like, whoa, all right.
Oh, he was my former student.
Oh, there you go. That'll do it.
Hi, Eileen. Thank you.
So while people are typing in the chat and just saying where they're from and what they do, which again helps us kind of talk about some of the things we're gonna share and customize this better to you, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves here just real quickly. So my name is Nate Ridgway. Hi there. I'm a teacher in Avon, Indiana. This will be my 7th year teaching. So I got my start off as a special education teacher, and then I also double majored in history. And now what I do is I teach history, kind of like a dual credit US history class and a world history class at the high school level here in Indiana. So if you haven't figured out yet, my mom and I are co-authors of, sorry, my video is like super jumpy. I just noticed that.
Yours was doing that earlier.
I know it was. It's just a glitch in the matrix. It's okay. So we're co-authors of this book right here, which is in the background. It's Don't Ditch That Tech, and that's where a lot of the ideas that we're going to talk about come from. But we've also been up to a whole bunch of shenanigans since that book has come out. So, Mom, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself while I get to that slide. There we go.
Hi, I want to welcome our participants after that. Hi, I'm Angie Ridgway, and I created this book with Nate and our co-author, Matt Miller, who started the Ditch series with Ditch That Textbook. And we presented together last week. I think Matt was getting away with his kids for a summer break, though. And we also have a podcast. If you have new teachers in your building, the podcast runs chronologically from what you do over the summer to prepare to what you do to start the school year. We did not continue casting during the pandemic, though. We were both overwhelmed with our teaching assignments, but we'll get back at it. So that should continue. It is intended for beginning teachers, but it could help anyone in a new assignment called Make It Till Friday. I serve as the director of the Master of Arts and Teaching program and the secondary education program at UND. I also work with the faculty in learning to teach. So thank you for joining us today. And Nate, I want to jump back into our chat and welcome our guests here. Let's welcome Corey Hall from Hershey, Pennsylvania. She's a curriculum developer, middle school librarian, former librarian. And Eileen is Fort Wayne, 5th grade math and science. Lori is coming in from Zionsville West, Project Lead the Way, grades 5 and 6. And Julie is from Lake Station, Indiana. We must have been close to you this weekend. Traveling north. STEAM teacher is Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca is from Decatur Township in Indianapolis, grades 1 through 6. We do a lot of work there. And Mandy is a 4th grade teacher from Eastern Green in Greene County, Indiana. And we're going to welcome Jamie, who's just down the street from Nate at Greenwood Middle School. And Alyssa is a high school English teacher at Cascade. close to me. So welcome. I don't think we got to meet everyone, but those are the folks who participated in the chat. Would anyone else like to introduce themselves?
And we would like you to, because whatever we're going to talk about here, like if you have like some special job, you know, teaching any subject, like I would like to mention stuff that you can use as your content area or as your particular background. So that is immensely helpful. Unless you know, want me to just make it very general, which isn't as fun. It doesn't help us with particular recommendations. So at least even a subject or content area would help us. So the purpose of this presentation is indeed going to be 20 pop-up reasons for differentiation. However, I know, and my mom and I know that since that with the pandemic happening, there can be a lot of different reasons why teachers are interested in ed tech, and particular ways that we can better meet student needs with ed tech. So we just want to acknowledge that perhaps you might be here because you might be like a curriculum director and you're looking at, you know, for example, like ways that your, you know, apps that your teachers might, you know, be exposed to, or maybe you're like a teacher who's like super desperate to find like one, you know, tip that might help you as this new school year starts. We just want to acknowledge that everybody's in different places when they start, you know, looking at ed tech. And then also with that, we're not also here to tell you how to teach. That is not exactly our job. We're going to talk about technology, but you're going to notice that we talk a lot more about how to best use the technology to better meet student needs. Oh, and as Redwana, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. If they said that there is a chat that people are posting in, so I
Oh,
will go
back in
open that
Woba.
up.
Okay.
I got it.
All
Okay, so Jamie Waltzer, K5 Special Ed. Spencer Fleming, fourth grade math and science teacher in Greenfield. Oh, another teacher in Greenfield, Lindsay. Fourth grade teacher, Auburn, Indiana. Lots of us from Indiana here, as expected.
Lots of intermediate grade.
Yes, lots of intermediate grades. Okay, so STEAM, grades 1-6, middle school science. Okay, cool.
2 or
Excellent,
3
excellent,
English
excellent.
teachers. Okay. Excellent.
So there's also been some questions that people have posted. I promise that we will get to those. What's the most effective tech you've used? And then the session sounds great, but how can I get it later? We'll get to those. I promise. Any questions that people pose there. So if you want to go ahead and put those in there or in the Zoom chat, I promise we will get to them. So as I was saying, yeah, you might be coming here for a lot of reasons, and our goal is to empower you, not to tell you how to teach. I mean, we can give you some generalized recommendations, and we will. But the most important thing is that this is always done in mind what's best for you, and most importantly, best for your students. Mom, anything you want to add to this?
I just want to say, but I'm putting this in the chat because I don't know where the person went who couldn't stay for the session, but it is being recorded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think they're going to be accessible for like it's like a year or something, isn't it? It's something like that.
Do we have that correct, Tim? I just want to make sure. Oh, I do see the recording button on here, and they are accessible. I know through the school year at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can spread that information.
Okay, so while we get rolling here, because there's going to be some brief introductory stuff we're going to talk about. A lot of you guys have already done this. You said who you are and where you're teaching in your content areas. If you have any questions or needs that you have about differentiation, again, continue to keep posting them in the chat, and I promise we will get to them as we kind of carry on. But let's go ahead and talk about some best practices first. It's really, really important that although we are going to be talking about tools here, I just want to make sure that we cover that the tools aren't really the focus here. It's going to be how we use them in terms of the context of good pedagogy, right? So the kind of theme that I would give you here is that just because you're using a tool that's online, it doesn't mean that we do any less of the really good stuff that we do anyways. So for example, like chunking information or supporting and scaffolding students, all these good things that we as educators know how to do. Offering choice, time for metacognition, making information accessible, right? So you can see I'm just kind of going through the list here. Models for process and product. Again, my mom and I are very inspired by Carolyn Tomlinson and her work on differentiation there. So that's kind of what that's pulled from. Connections made to the real world and prior learning, timely and relevant feedback, and then good learning and measurable assessments that we can actually understand what our students know and understand. So with that, Mom, anything you want to add here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So our plan here is that we are going to be going in, speaking of chunking, apps 3 by 3. We're going to take some time to introduce 3 at a time, and then we're going to have a chance to have you guys, talk with each other and discuss and brainstorm possibilities for your own classrooms, and then share out some of the ways that you might use them. Okay, so again, we just don't want this to be like a huge dump of 20 ideas and then like you are like, oh my god, what the heck just happened this last hour, I don't remember anything. That would not be helpful for anyone. So let's go ahead and we are going to look at the comprehensive list here of the 20 that we are going to be checking out. Now, Mom, do you want to go like top down, left to right, or do you want to go like across? What do you want to do?
I think we should go across. Looking at these, I think we should go across unless anyone wants to. We'll start with class time and let's do this, Nate. If somebody has one that they're like, I've never seen that logo, I want to learn what that is.
Yeah,
we could certainly
spend some more time on it.
Not a problem.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and dump, just again, to make sure that everybody has this, I'm going to go ahead and dump the link to the presentation in here. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you play with these apps as we show them to you. Please do not just sit there and be a passive recipient of it. You need to actually play with these and mold them and try them and see if it's something that might be worth your time. Because playing is really the best way for you to kind of understand and learn how these things work. So what I'm going to do here is on this page. So if you just joined us, I'm on slide number 9. I'm going to click on the C here. That's for class time. And we're going to jump into this one first. Now it will jump you in presentation mode here to the slide where we're going to show how we're using it. So what is class time? I'm going to go ahead and actually pull it up here on my screen. Please let me know if you do not see this or it's not showing up. Just let me log into my library here real fast. Class time is a rapid fire assessment tool. I love it and I've used it for about 5 years. I think now. It's been a good long time. Let's sign in with this one. I think that one's going to be the one where I have more stuff. And what it does is it allows me to really quickly collect assessment data for my students. You might have like heard of like a Socrative or things like that before. I like this one as a very easy to share, very quick, very modifiable kind of, I especially use it for like formative assessments. So here, I have right here. So like here's remote learning reflection. So Mom, can you see my screen just to double check? Okay. So I'm gonna, this is a session that I made and I go ahead and I just click on it and I say start new session. And then students could either, they could, and there's all sorts of settings you can have on these, right? They could either go and they could type in these 6 letters, that would be fine. Or there's a QR code. If you have littles, okay, and you're like, oh my God, watching littles try to type in 6 letters and numbers in the correct order is a disaster. There's a QR code they can scan. And then when they get in there, okay, and I'll just go ahead and show you with kind of a mock-up class here, is what happens is once they start and once they get going, all of a sudden I start to get all these answers. And so this one was just a really, really simple one that I did with students. And it was just let's reflect on how remote learning went for us. And I said, there's no right, wrong answers for these questions. And so students then could pick with a grid. So they could rate, how do you feel like your work ethic was during this time or your understanding of lesson material? So you can see like I've just got this very easy grid of questions that they could fill out, right? The wonderful thing about this is that if I were to sample students, let's say that I were just to, and I'll go and I can actually show you without revealing any student names. So here's one that I did earlier this year. And what I love doing and why I love class time so much is because I get the data right away. So if like you're like, well, how is this different than a Google Forms or like a Canvas quiz or something like that? The information is there like that on my class time session reports. They take, for me, I have students do typically a class time warm up kind of at the beginning of class, maybe one at the end for like an exit ticket or something like that. But the good news is that it's like, so like when I want to collect data in a Google form, it's really, really long. I have to kind of parse through the individual answers, and that just takes a while. And instead, what I can do, and I'll go ahead and just pull this one up as an example, is I get all this data. I'll go ahead and hide names here, and it just comes in just like this. And I can immediately see the grid of responses, and I can see, oh, okay, this student right here, they really struggled. Like something was going on here. And if I then click on the options, it says, what was the Columbian Exchange? I can see, oh, okay. And if I highlight over this, I could even see the names of the students who struggled on that particular question. And I just get it right there. It's really, really quick, right? Class time has all sorts of question types. If I were to go in then to make my own, there's all sorts. I mean, so one of my favorite ones that I've used before, I can add any of my own pictures to these things, by the way. So one of my favorite ones they have is this one called a hotspot question. And I can add an image. So if you're like a biology teacher or a science teacher, et cetera, and especially stuff that like uses visual like models and mediums or questions, you're like, okay, show me where the heart is, right? I can upload a picture and then students, I can mark, okay, so like I tell students, I want you to click on where the dog is, right? I mark this area as the correct area to click. And then, so I say, click the dog, right? And then what happens when I create the question, I start it, right? And students would try it is so I'd go, okay. And then when students pull up, I get all these little areas around here where they might've tried to click on the dog, and I can see the ones that did it correctly, right? Not on this one, because I just made it, but you get my point, right? So there's all these different question types. And for me, it's like the quickest you saw right there, like how long it took me to make a formative assessment. It took me less than a minute. For me, this is why I really, really like this thing. So that's class time. Right here, there's a link if you want 3 months of it's what we call like a freemium app. I used the free version for a long time. But if you want to try out the premium, it's there. It's one of the very few apps that I actually pay for because it's like that worth it for me. But you can see like how the data comes in over here. You can also do a whole bunch of modification with these things. So let's say I took that same question set where I said like, click on the dog, and I was teaching this in a foreign language class. I could provide, like a word bank underneath. I could just take that exact question set, make a copy of it, and then send out that link to a different group of students without any of the students ever knowing. And I could provide, a word bank. I could provide a YouTube video underneath that might help explain a question, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really, really fast, and that's why I like it. Mom, is there anything you wanted to add with class time?
No, I think I just want to pull our attention to the fact that depending on the student's needs, then here's where the differentiation comes in using class time.
Yep.
First,
Because
the
like,
first point is you can ask 2 or 3 questions, see what your responses are, and then immediately adjust your instruction. That's what I love about it, because it's data absolutely at your fingertips. So there's a big part of the differentiation.
yeah. And if I see my students are struggling, it's so quick to do grouping. It's so fast. Like I can change what it's like, oh, my kids clearly didn't know what this topic was that we did yesterday. I need to go back and spiral on that, so you can kind of hit those kind of things.
Or the question was asked, is the data color coded in the free version? Yes, it is.
Yes.
And that's why I love it. I also love it because I'm a migrant teacher. We don't have our own classrooms.
So you can see it right here.
I can put that code up. The students, as they come in, can scan the QR code, or I can put the college students can do 5 letters and numbers and things more easily. I can put that up. They can get going, top of the game, and then I can get data to change that session if I need to. Can you go back to the differentiation screen? there too. And then you can have vocab word banks for the students available. You could have two different versions going. You can have sentence stems or solved examples like a picture to scaffold your students. You can do multiple choice. You can do free form writing. And here's what I love about it. But I think it's the paid version. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nathan, where it does predictive grading.
No, that's free. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
this is a weird thing that a lot of teachers are like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. So what class time does, let's say I asked like an open-ended question to students and I wanted them to fill it in with a word bank, right? Of options. Yeah, I could say something like, the Ming Dynasty invented this, and then students would type in an answer, right? Class time will remember what you grade as a correct response when students would type out that answer, and anytime a student in the future responds with that same answer, it will grade it as correct. In class time, I've also heard is starting to implement AI into the grading as well. So if students have related answers that are also similar, it will auto grade those as correct too. It's starting to. So there's some like huge time saving things here as well. If you're like having to do a lot of grading very quickly, yeah, predictive grading is kind of neat. And it's not something I've seen on another app. So that can be a time saver for those who are using it, especially like a lot of vocab laden questions.
I
So that
also
is
like
class
the
time.
way, Nate, compared to other things, I like the way it stacks up the student responses because I
Hmm.
quickly can go boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
writing the student responses.
And they've
And
got some other things in there too. So like this is on the premium version, but my students love them even though they're high schoolers. They have these things right here, like engineer a jungle roller coaster, right? So what happens is from any session, I can launch one of these. And they really like it. And this is like I'll just give you like a preview of it. It's really silly, but so you'll be able to hear the music jamming probably. Um, and what happens is as students answer, so you can see right here, I've got 15 students answering. What happens is that as they answer, uh, animation starts to happen. Now in this case, here, let's do it based off a better one. I'm gonna close out of that one. Let's find a session that has a nice lot of questions and I can preview what that would look like. So let's do this one. This one will work. Because students like them. Because what happens with the animation is that as more students answer and they do so correctly, we'll do the same one. That the animation starts to change. So let's try this one. See if it does it. And hopefully, what students have happen is that as more answer correctly, they actually start the roller coaster starts to build itself, which is really neat. Now here, because we're not going to have the time, I can't show you like the full animation, but students love to like because it's more of like a collaborative thing as opposed to competing with each other. It's a fun alternative. So that's those are the collaborative challenges, and they're fun. I've done it a few times, but okay. You ready to go to the next one, Mom?
what questions do you have about that one? We are going to have a pause here to kind of play around with these.
Yeah. And again, I would encourage you guys in the background to play around with these as well.
You want to go to Tween Tribune?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, if people want to type their questions in the chat, we can answer them as they come up. So if you didn't know, Tween Tribune is this app out here that is a free, basically, version of Newsella. So as a lot of us experienced during the pandemic, all of these ed tech companies come out and they're like, hey, we're open up completely free 100% access. You can use all of our stuff. And then 6 months later, now they come back and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you're gonna like start paying us for this thing that you've been relying upon this entire time, right? Now Newsella, they before the pandemic went to it. If you wanted anything besides current news, it is you have to pay for it or your district has to pay for it. So if you are a teacher looking for an alternative to this, this is Tween Tribune, and what they do is they provide scaffolded readings for free. So, Mom, do you want to explain this?
Sure. And so It's content curated and vetted by the Smithsonian, so it's really good stuff. And what you can do is search by topic, or you can search by Lexile. But right here, we've just pulled up a couple of one. How about the mini golf courses?
Mm-hmm.
Know that they publish all summer, but there'll be new things coming out in the fall. And what's great for the students, I think, is that when you push these out, and you can push them out through your Google Classroom or through Canvas or whatever,
Oh, Mom, you broke up there for a
the
minute.
students,
Oh, go ahead.
the
As you
students,
push it out is the last thing we heard.
the students don't see the difference from each other's reading. And so I think that's a great part. So if Nate clicks on those, you can see the Lexile level changes for the kids,
Mm-hmm.
but the graph,
Yeah, but
they're not seeing that they're reading
mm-hmm.
actually
and
different levels of content.
all that it is it's a change in the URL, right? So students aren't paying attention to like a URL difference between their peers, right? Which is up here. We know that as teachers. But if you have like Google Classroom, it's really simple to send out a different URL to somebody else, right? Or Canvas, you can do that as well. Easy things like that. It's not difficult. So that is just a wonderful resource for a lot of teachers, and it's good. It's vetted well. They're well put together.
So it should be pretty good content for you.
Oh, sorry, Mom, you broke up. The last thing. What were you saying, Mom? Your internet connections is going in and out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eileen was saying that I love that they have articles in Spanish too.
Can you hear me
Yes.
now?
I can, but you're coming in and out really badly. You might want to move to a place with better internet connection. Because you're freezing a lot. So it's okay. I'll take it until you can get to a spot with better connection. Yeah, they have not updated their Spanish site in a long time. I'm not sure why that is, but the good news is it's still all there. So if you want to use something from that, from Tween Tribune that is Spanish cited, they have 23 pages of articles that you can pull from, which is another good source. Okay, Mom, it looks like you're back now. I see your video moving again.
Trying to see if the dog could shut something off. I don't know what's going on because it looks like
you're fine.
It's great from this side. What else are we going to say? There are quizzes in here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do that. Do you mind to pull up one of those articles
Yes.
one more time, Nate?
So if you go down, videos are integrated, right? Critical thinking questions.
And so there's even right in that ways to differentiate there because the
Mm-hmm.
questions are differentiated for the content.
Yep.
So that is Tween Tribune.
And then dot storming. So dot storming will be kind of like the last one we show in this chunk. Again, we'll get through as many as we can. So we love dot storming because it's a really good student opportunity for students to practice metacognition. This is an example of a dot storming board right here. And what I had students do with this one is that we got to the end of the year, we were trying to do a reflection on what students felt like they most needed to study. And then what happens is students click, and that's a dot. They vote on which thing they would most like to examine. And so with dot storming, it's basically kind of like a big voting board. And then at the very end, you can rank their votes in the order that they think are the most important. It is free. I think they give you 2 boards for free. Is that correct? And then after that, then they charge. But what I do is I just delete the boards I don't use. So, yeah. What would be some ways that you might use it to differentiate, Mom?
Well, you could use it. You could differentiate. You could differentiate your content based on what students vote for, right? And okay,
Mhm.
let's back up though, Nate.
Yeah.
So for elementary, my students will build. Can you highlight that dot storm board a bit there? And if I
Yes.
cut out, you can take over from here.
Okay.
But something, it must be the teenagers in my neighborhood are awake or something. um, you could put the content choices there if you're working with littles.
Mhm.
And then they vote. All they have to integrate then is a dot to vote. I actually saw this done in a kindergarten classroom with sticky dots where the
Yeah.
children voted for what they knew the strongest, the best. And then you can, once the kids vote for what they feel like they know and don't know, then you can reteach or teach in a different way the content. That would be an easy way to do it for the littles. They could also do peer feedback for learning. And so voting for different things or providing comments. The students are it's hard to see on this feature, but once you get on dot storming yourself, the students are able to comment and you can shut that off, as I remember correctly. It's
Mhm.
been a minute since I've used this.
Yeah.
But they could also vote on areas of interest. Do they
Oh,
want to
okay.
read this? Do they want to read this book, that book, or that book? Maybe you have 5 books and they vote for 3. There's just infinite ways, so many ways to use dot storming in your classroom. I use it for setting our classroom norms. So we brainstorm and then we put the 8 or 9 most common ones up, and then they vote for the top 5, and those become our classroom norms for us. And then I save that board. I actually paid for it this year, Nate, because I was using it so much. It's really
Mhm.
inexpensive too.
Yeah, it's not too much, I don't think. And it's also visual, so they just don't. It just doesn't have to be text. It can also be pictures that
Mhm.
that you put in there, right? And that students, could vote on. So you can imagine that opens up to a whole variety of things. Cool. So yeah, that's dot storming. All right, so let's take a moment. If you have questions that you would like to ask about it, this would also be a good time for that. But let's have a moment. I'd like people to kind of take some time to think about how you might use one of those 3 in your classroom. So do some brainstorming.
Oh, good. Corey loves the News ELA, Newsella alternative.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that was helpful, Corey. Good.
Oh, and Caroline Clayton says, "Hi again, Dr. Ridgway. I teach 11, 12 English at Palestine High School in New Pal, Indiana."
Are you on here, Caroline? Oh my goodness.
I don't know if they're on here right now, but they at least said hi. I saw in the
Oh,
chat.
that's excellent.
Yeah, kind of cool.
She was in one of the first classes I taught at UND.
Yeah.
Yeah, Corey, because News ELA got too expensive, didn't it there? Okay, how about throwing in the chat some way in which you could use one of these tech apps for your classroom? mean, group think is always better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jamie says, yes, thank you for sharing because I used to use Newsella all the time when I taught middle school. But yes, so it's currently exploring between Tribune and they have some PBL ideas.
Excellent. Great.
Yes, a big part of differentiation, as Sabrina's kind of saying there, is like where we start to kind of get towards some very like student centered, especially like problem based or kind of like wonder based issues, and that's nice. So I'm starting a new position in dot storming. I could create a dot storm and have them pick interests so I can get to know the kids. Yeah, that's a good one. Get to know you kind of activity.
Like that. Oh, you could do a student interest preference, right?
Yeah.
We do this on the wall, but you could do how many like camping, how many like to swim.
Yeah, Eileen says, I'll have to play around with class time and compare it to what I've used. We're moving to a new LMS system and that has something like this, I think. Yeah, and that's where we should say with any of these tools, you might have something that works that you use and that's better, and that's absolutely fine. Stick with what is best for like what you know, and what is best for your kids. I just sent the link to Tween Tribune to our 8th grade history and LA teachers. It will be a great resource for class learning on our e-learning days.
And Nathan, we didn't mention that class time has the whole bank of.
They do. They have like
questions.
I can't remember how many. It's a silly amount of questions that you can rip from because it's linked into Khan Academy, and so you can go and you can pull questions from ones that people have already written. So yeah, that is a big time saver. You can also share them with other teachers too. So it's like if you have like a teacher who teaches like, a similar subject to you in the building, you can just share your set with them and then they can customize them, reuse them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And yeah. I like it. Another thing about class time, I don't think you mentioned this, Nathan, when my internet was out, but I like it because my students are always seated so close together when non-COVID times. And in these armchairs, and I can mix the questions up. It auto mixes the questions.
Yeah.
So.
There's settings like that where you can like have it jumble them so they can't, look at each other and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always helpful too. And you can do that. What do you call it? Something mutate?
Oh, I call it so copy paste mutate, where you copy a session, you paste it, you make an exact identical session, and then you add some mutations where basically like you make it harder or you make it easier, or you add different things to it if you have a different group of students. Yeah, I call that copy paste mutate, mostly because it needs to rhyme. And that's important.
But if you have a different section of students where you've emphasized something differently, or you have accelerated and you have non-accelerated, or then you can change. And that's class time. We're back on class time now. Other ideas. Oh, hotspot. Yes. Identify errors in math problems. That's great, Eileen.
Find the
great
error.
idea.
Yeah.
Find the error. It's great for maps.
Anything visual, right?
Health. Any of those things. It's great for visuals.
Yeah. Awesome. So as people keep posting their ideas, we don't have a huge amount of time left, so I'm going to keep going because my guess is we're not going to make 20. We'll try. So let's. I'm going to reshare my screen here, and I am going to take us to slide back to slide 9.
I think we should do Wonderopolis.
Yeah, we should definitely do Wonderopolis. We might jump around here a little bit. That's okay. Wonderopolis is amazing. If you have an elementary and middle age students, so like 7th, 8th grade, even some freshmen, it might be okay for. Wonderopolis is amazing. So Wonderopolis is just like what it sounds. It's all about wonder. But it's the idea that you can have students explore things that they're like, man, I wonder why that is a thing, right? Like, and that's what it's all about. So like you can see a question up here, a sample one, can you turn peanut butter into a diamond? Right. They had a student who submitted this question. And so what Wonderopolis does, and I'll actually go to their site here. Again, please let me know if you can't see this, is that um, they have all these different wonders that, of what these, so how do seeds sprout, right? Here's one on their site. So let's just go ahead and click on that. How do seeds sprout? And so we click on it. Why it's amazing then is because it's not just like this is like a Wikipedia or a Google answer that like I'm hoping I find something that's safe for my kids. Like this is well put together, extremely well sourced, vetted, age appropriate stuff for kids, which is why it's awesome. They also have video, they have images. The words right here. So, like, let's say, for example, your kids are like, I don't know what the word barren means. Well, if they highlight over the word barren, it says an uninhabited wilderness that is worthless for cultivation. Like it gives that dictionary definition for hard vocab. But what it also has right up here under the title, every article in Wonderopolis has this, is immersive reader. And if you're not familiar with using immersive reader or your teachers are not familiar with this tool, it is amazing. It will read to your students. It will provide them a visual dictionary of words. It can also translate it into hundreds of languages. You can read it at a different pace. If you have students who struggle with dyslexia, it has line assistance that can help out with that. It's amazing. And so what you can then do is you can use this, as a source for you and your kids. It's got, it's got vocab lists that you can pull out of it. It's got, things that you can try. It's even, I think, Mom, do some of them have like quizzes that they can take?
Yeah, there should be some challenges on the right side, Nathan.
There aren't on this one, but there's like a try it out here down below. Yeah.
There's a word challenge on every one though.
Mm-hmm.
If you go up on the right.
Yeah, take the Wonder Word challenge. Yeah, there it
Yeah.
is.
So
And
that's your vocabulary piece there.
and again, like you can also with students, this is where it's kind of cool. Like, what are you wondering? You can have students submit their own wonders, right? And so you can actually, and you can take this and you can flip it with kids so that it becomes something that they do with you, which is pretty awesome. So that is Wonderopolis. Let's keep going because I'm afraid we're going to run out of time. Insert learning. Okay. Insert learning is cool. Again, the visual up here actually does a pretty good job of showing you how it works. So insert learning is a Chrome add-on. It is free. It basically it takes any online content and you can add scaffolding to it. So you can, for example, like there was somebody here, a teacher was taking an NPR article, and they added a question. So they typed out a question for kids, and then what happens is that when students open this up, the article is all of a sudden this interactive tool that the students can highlight on it. The teacher could have added a YouTube video there that they wanted them to watch that had to do with that article. There could have been a discussion thing there so that students could have discussed back and forth, something about it. And that's insert learning. It's a Chrome add-on. So right now it works with Chrome only, as far as I know. But it is immensely powerful. I've used it in my classrooms that I've taught over the years. Students like it. It does require, obviously, having permission from your district, to use Chrome add-ons and stuff like that. So that's always something to check out. But other than that, think of it like an ed puzzle, but for anything online. That's kind of the idea.
Mm-hmm. And Nathan, if I don't have Canvas, we use a different LMS, but if I recall correctly, you can push it out through your LMS, Google Classroom or Canvas, right?
Yes. It's just a link that you send, so even if you don't have like Google Classroom or Canvas, you can do that too.
So that's where the differentiation comes in, because this part where you see in the middle there where it's clicking on create a question, you can do different things for different groups of students. So your
Add a sticky
question,
note,
yeah, your questions could vary, your sticky note supports can vary. So that's where you can get into taking that article and providing different scaffolds for different students.
Yeah. Okay, so Anchor. Uh, Anchor is podcasting in the classroom. If I'll make this one short because immediately some people hear podcasting, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds super intimidating. It sounds so hard. Why would I ever try to do that with kids?" If you've not thought about using podcasting as an assessment or even as a content kind of skill or perhaps medium, I should say, in your classroom, um, there are some really powerful possibilities with this that you may not have considered. Um, what I would direct you to is that we actually have an ebook that we've written on this that is completely free. Right down here, if you click it, it says podcasting in the classroom. I've done it with students for years. And so it's got templates that I've used with kids on helping plan their own. Anchor is my go-to app, but you can also use things like Flipgrid, and there's other ones out there that are free and easy to use. I've had students, they've used Video before, but they just didn't actually put any video content in it. That's also okay. So if you're wanting to think about that as an exploration of having maybe perhaps it could be a different way that you differentiate by product, right? Of what students make and how they show off knowledge in your room. That this could be a really interesting possibility. So Anchor is right here, and then our podcasting ebook is right there as well. So I think we'll have time, Mom, for probably one more chunk of apps, if I had to guess. So I will, we will kind of have to take a look here after we give some people a moment to process some more ideas, and we'll have to kind of make some choices as to the
Okay.
last three that we look at.
So we should have everyone tap on Wonderopolis, Insert Learning, and Anchor. And then if we can post in the chat ideas for how you might think about using them in your classroom or in your school.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take about 3 minutes to do that.
Hi, Haley. It's funny because Jamie, my other dog, got upset right at the exact moment. Where did you put the link to your slides? Kathy, I will post them here for you. There you go. You're welcome. So as I know some of you guys are starting to bounce around ideas about, things you can use, always a good idea. Check with your admin if you can use these things. Okay. Two, I always say this when we talk about apps, make sure they're COPA and FERPA compliant. All the ones that we've given you here are, and then three, make sure it's the best thing for your students. And not just because it's, because the app that we put here is cool and sexy and you're like, dang, we got to try that thing. Like it's actually got to make sense. So Lindsay said, I use Wonderopolis as a soft start on Wednesday. Oh, Wonder Wednesday. Oh, that's cute.
I love it.
They read and learn about something they're interested in knowing more about. Then on Thursday, they teach somebody else about their wonder and what they've learned. Teach me Thursday. Oh, that's a good idea. I like it too, because then the students become responsible for like sharing that knowledge, right? That's nice. Corey said that she loves using Anchor with her students. So easy. They love adding music and sound effects. It's really easy to use, like really, really easy. Oh, and I'm going to add a 4 to that list. If you're trying a new app with students, don't try to do new content with it at the same time. So like the first time I try class time, or the first time that I try Flipgrid or Anchor, you need to make it about something that is not serious with content, because they need to understand the process of how to use the app first, and then they can express their knowledge through that. Like, don't try to do both at the same time, or you're going to be in for a world of hurt. Yeah. Okay, so Mom, we got about 7 minutes. Let's talk about some of our favorites here, that we could perhaps impart to them, as this list of 20 that we definitely did not get to all of them, but we tried. There's just so much good stuff to talk about. Do you want to? So let's do. Let's see.
It's a tough choice.
Do you want to do Learning for Justice and then IORAD and Pear Deck?
Sure.
I think Pear Deck is pretty well known, though. Let's do. Okay.
Let's start with you. You've grown to love talking points, though.
I do like talking points. I haven't used it to enough that I like. I want to shout it to the mountaintops yet, but I like where it's going. Okay, let's do Learning for Justice first. We can figure it out. So the bottom one, it used to be called Teaching Tolerance, but now it's called Learning for Justice. So we actually need to update this name. They changed their name here in the last couple months. It is become, and it always has been, but now that educators are starting, I think, as paying more attention that to issues of race and equity in the classroom. If you are not familiar with Learning for Justice, I highly, highly recommend that you check them out, because they can provide you a serious amount of resources that are very, very powerful for delivering immense scaffolding on anti-bias, anti-racist education in your classroom, to vetting ed tech tools for racial representation, and things of that nature. Making sure that students feel represented in your curriculum. They can help you out with that as well, no matter if you're teaching math or STEAM, or English language arts. I highly, highly recommend checking this group out. They also have, for those history teachers out there, they have some really good resources for them as well. I actually redesigned my civil rights curriculum that I teach, completely redesigned it using some of the resources from them. So would highly recommend that you give these guys a good look through. They are very, very responsive to what teachers need at the time. So you for example, like your class might be looking at issues surrounding AAPI, Asian American or Pacific Islander, intolerance or bias issues that have, cropped up here within the last year. And they can link you to stuff going all the way back, hundreds of years in U.S. history. So highly recommend. Again, it was called Teaching Tolerance, but now it's Learning for Justice. So again, might not seem like it's about differentiation, but if it's ultimately about helping your students' needs, would give them a check. Let's do IORAD here next. So IORAD is really cool. IORAD is not a super well-known tool. It's free. which is always nice. It does have some premium features, but I've never needed them. So again, like feel free to get away with the free version. IORAD is awesome. So down here, I have this link that says take a tutorial for a test run. And this is what it looks like. So if you heard it say complete the warm up, what IORAD does, if you've ever had a moment where you had to like tell students, okay, here's the tutorial, like I need to give somebody like a walkthrough on how to get to this thing, right? Or how to do this. That's what IORAD does for anything that is online. And I always remember like going as a kid to like the computer lab and like having like a, like the teacher would say, go here, then go here, then go here, then go here. IORAD does that, but it makes your students or even like parents, if you're like, parents have asked me 500,000 times how to sign up for a Canvas account. And I have to keep resending that over and over again. Well, you just send them a URL of this tutorial and then they actually have to click. So like I'm clicking on the screen right now and it says, no, you need to complete the warm up. You need to click B3. Like, and I click it. And so now it says read today's objectives. So like, imagine using this as like sub plans, right? Or, parent walkthroughs on how to navigate your website or get logged into PowerSchool or, access, student work, right? So this thing is really powerful and it's very easy to use. I have tutorials on it on our blog, which is www.teachingfromtheridge.com. And then IORAD is just iorad.com. So that's awesome. Mom, what's one more app that you'd like to talk about with the limited time that we have?
I really love Flipgrid, Nate.
Flipgrid's awesome.
But I know it's become much more widely known.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to? Math Learning Center is good. There's so many good ones, right? And to be honest, like we only have like a minute left. So we'll go ahead. Let's go ahead with this minute left. Any questions that you guys have, please go ahead and post them in the chat. I'm going to leave, Mom, will you go ahead and will you leave our contact information over there on the side on the Zoom chat, and I'll put it in the WOVA chat. And then if people would like more ideas or they want to, if they want to share some of their possibilities they thought of, that would be a really good place to do that. Can we show Penzu? I'm sorry, Corey, we're out of time. I want to show Penzu too.
It's easy to explore and start. It's an online journaling system. And really, I think if you click on Penzu, you can get in there and start a journal and see how your students can share it. It's very intuitive.
You guys, this was amazing. I had so much fun and I've got 3 new things to explore. So that's always a treat. Hopefully we all had a good opportunity to grab a bunch of good ideas. You guys never disappoint. I do have to remind everybody that it would be amazing if you would, in the Hoover area, there's a survey to take about this session. That's what triggers your professional growth points. And so we'd love for you to do that. And I hope everybody's sponges are full and everybody's had a great Keep Indiana Learning conference. This is my last session. So again, to both of our Ridgways, thank you so much. You guys are always amazing.
Thank you for hosting us. We really appreciate it. And to all of you for being great teachers. Wow, you've shouldered the world the last year. We appreciate it.
Cool. Well, guys, I need to shut down the session. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.